My name is Rex Hoover, and I'm Jinx and Gloria's middle son. On behalf of the family, we'd like to thank all of y'all for coming today and to the great visitation last night, especially those that traveled on this holiday weekend. Gloria is especially honored to have 3 of her 6 freshman suite mates from Alexander Hall and Baylor University join us today. Thank you also for all the kindness and food and notes. It's just been incredible, and sorry that we haven't been able to answer all of them, but we will, and if you know my mom, they'll probably be handwritten notes. I'd like to really thank Park Hills and all the members for the wonderful job they've done in setting up this church and working so hard to make this a great event, and especially like to thank Andy Graham and his team for coming out in the 100-degree heat and redoing all the landscaping, and nobody asked him, nobody told him, he just did it, and that's love. I would personally like to thank Gloria and Matt for the 3 years of care that they've done for Jinx. It's just been incredible. We're here today to honor a great life. My goal is to try to show my kids the grace that my parents always showed during similar circumstances, so I'll blame any wet eyes or scratchy throat on the Hoover allergies today, and hopefully they won't bother us too much. It's hard to sum up a guy like Jinx, as the obituary shows, that was involved in so many things and had success in so many different areas and had traveled so much and had so many friends around the globe. And there was something about Jinx Hoover that drew people to him. And they said, well, what is it? Can I have some of it? And Jinx would simply say, Jesus Christ. I believe his biggest witness was to make people pause all over the world and go, that's Christianity? That's crazy. I better look into that a little bit more. Psalms 37:4, which is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, I always think of my dad, says simply, be delighted in the Lord. And Jinx Hoover surely was delighted in the Lord. He didn't have to tell you, he lived it, and you knew. His story started in Mount Calm, Texas, a small cotton farming community 30 miles northeast of Waco. His grandparents, Clarence and Effie, began having 8 consecutive boys and were forever known as Ma and Paul Hoover after that. The 8 boys were the infamous Hoover uncles, and we're very honored to have Bill Hoover join us today, and his brother Jack sent these beautiful Mount Calm panther flowers up there in the purple and gold. And Mount Calm is where Jinx was on a youth baseball team and picked up the nickname of Jinx, named after a sports writer in Waco, and I think we'd all agree one of the best nicknames of all time. Mount Calm was a magic place. There was always family to tease and pranks to pull. There was always sports. Jinx was always proud to tell you about his epic 6-man football games against Willie Nelson, who played for the rival Abbott High School. There was the famous all-Hoover traveling baseball team and a night watchman for the town who was very much like Barney Fife, named Mose. And no service with Jinx Hoover would be complete without talking about old Mose. And fireworks. Jinx always ran a fireworks stand, and he would say, I shot up all the profits. And he loved shooting fireworks for the rest of his life. And school, Mount Cam. Jinx was tested at 149 for his IQ and was very proud to be valedictorian. And we would say, well, that's of 6 shoeless kids in overalls in a dirt street town. But he was still proud of it, and most famously, I think he was runner-up for the best-looking senior boy in his class of 2 boys. Mount Calm is where Jinx learned to have fun with nothing. No money, no cussing, no booze, even though there were reports of a few of the uncles slipping off to the county line to the jug for a night of honky-tonkin', but that's never been verified. Somehow, in Mount Calm, Texas in the 40s, Jinx became a huge Boston Red Sox fan. Ted Williams was always his player, and one of Jinx's biggest thrills was he drove up to Kansas City and was there when the Red Sox finally won their first championship in about 1,000 years. And there was a small contingent of Boston fans behind home plate after the game, and the players came out and sprayed him with champagne. One of his biggest thrills. At the very end, when Jinx could no longer read the paper and do the crossword, I would lie to him every day. I'd say, boy, Dad, your Sox are winning again. They've won about 19 in a row. Looks like they're going to win the pennant again. So, Brother Samuel, I hope you'll forgive me of that little white lie there. World War II was an especially anxious time as his dad and 4 of his uncles fought all across the world, some in the South Pacific, some in Europe. And oh, what a huge celebration and illegal street dance they had when they all returned home safely. Jinx loved Mount Calm and was always proud to be from there. He would never miss a Mount Calm or a Hoover reunion, and he loved listening to his Uncle Jack and his Uncle Bill retell the tall tales of old Mount Cam. After Mount Calm, it was over to nearby Baylor University, where he became a 3-year varsity letterman in baseball, and he loved playing in alumni games and having season tickets together with all his buds from that team. Jinx became one of Baylor's biggest fans, and all of us have watched so many games and traveled so far across the country to go to road trips with him. And, you know, with Jinx, when I was thinking about putting all this together, I was thinking it's always the driving with Jinx, for work, for vacations, for games, for enchiladas, for barbecue. There was nowhere that Jinx wouldn't go at the drop of a hat. One of the last times I took him to San Antonio, northwest San Antonio, for his drug trials, we were heading back to Austin, and he wasn't feeling too good. He was kind of beat down by that point. But he turned to me and he said, "Hey, want to go get some ribs?" So we took a 120-mile detour over to Luling City Market, and then, of course, we had to go up to Smitty's in Lockhart for some barbecue dessert on the way home. And Jinx chose San Antonio for his trials so that he could eat his beef enchiladas at Herbert's Taco Hut in San Marcos. And every time we'd go down there, the doctors and nurses would always want to talk about cancer and chemo and treatments, and all Jinx ever wanted to talk about was Herbert's. And have you been there? Man, you got to go. It's the best enchiladas in the world. And I remember as a family always driving back from La Mesa after Christmas in the middle of the night, and pitch dark and bitter cold, and nothing but the stars and a few lights, Christmas lights that the cotton farmers would proudly have on their houses. And we'd be fidgeting with the radio, just struggling to hold an AM station out of Lubbock or San Angelo that was still playing Christmas carols. But it wasn't the food, it wasn't the game that we were driving for, it was just the time together. And Mark Zimmerman, one of our friends, I think summed that up very well. I'd like to read you what he said. "I've been very fortunate to have spent so many great times with Mr. Hoover and Matt and Rex, burning up the I-35 corridor, going from one Baylor game after another. Many special conversations of what could have been had our opponent not scored 56 points on us. We had not shanked 3 extra points, botched that double play, overthrown the catcher when trying to intentionally walk the rice batter." And it goes on, but there's too many to cover today. But I think that very well sums up our Baylor fan experience, except for this incredible last year when shockingly, the year of the Bear, and was such a blessing that Jinx Hoover got to see this great turnaround. The year before had seen such bitter endings for Westlake and all of our Baylor teams. And then for him to see Robert Griffin win the Heisman and national championships and all the awards, and just unimaginable success, the winningest record all time in college sports. It was literally the cherry on top of his life, and it was such a blessing. He left us with the immortal quote that he always would teach his kids: "It's a good day when Baylor wins. It's a great day when Baylor beats UT." And also back at Baylor, he met a stunning brunette from La Mesa, Golden Tornadoes, Gloria Esmond. And from their first date at Baylor homecoming, they shared their lives together. They raised a family of 3 future Baylor grads. They traveled the world, and they served the Lord for over 50 years and showed us all what a beautiful marriage could be. After Baylor, Jinx proudly served his country in the United States Army and then went to work for Roche Laboratories, which was the only job he would ever have. As he moved up the corporate ladder, the family moved with him from Amarillo to Oklahoma City, finally to the corporate headquarters in Nutley, New Jersey. Jinx had a great job, the kids had great sledding, and it was a wonderful chance for our family to see the northeast part of the country, but it wasn't Texas. And soon we were back to Texas and finally to Austin, where we ended up here in the tiny and then remote community of Westlake, where there was a new school and a new church, and it was our home, and we set up roots, and Jinx and Gloria set deep, deep roots in this community. A huge honor for Jinx and Gloria 3 years ago. Coach Darren Allman and the Westlake Shaps honored Jinx and Gloria at a community-wide pep rally before the state finals game and gave them an autographed ball to honor them for having season tickets for 35 years and rarely missing a home or away game. And Jinx had made all 6 playoff games that year, even though he was pretty beat up by the chemo. And this beautiful picture depicts that night. Jinx and Gloria found their spiritual home right here, a new church called Park Hills Baptist Church. Jinx became a deacon with Bob Sawyer, Don Chapman, Carl Van Ryswick, and so many of the others. But particularly the 4, Jinx and Don and Carl and Bob, became huge hunting buddies, domino competitors, and traveling buddies, and always arguing about Baylor, UT, and Aggie football. Jinx loved serving the Lord with his best friends. Thank you. One of the most profound things my parents have ever said to me was, they'd said, if this is proven wrong tomorrow, we're not changing a thing. We're going to go to Park Hills on Sunday with our friends. We're going to sing these great songs, and we're trying to live a moral life and help others. And Jinx helped many in this room, Baylor kids, church folks. But one story that not a lot of y'all know, mid-70s after a deacon meeting, Jinx went out to his car here at Park Hills and was surprised to find a car parked next to him and a girl sobbing on the steering wheel. And she was a local girl at Westlake, and she was that kid that we all know so well. The one that always dressed in black, never smiled, and everybody just knew what was going on and was no good. Jinx didn't judge her and got in the car and counseled her. And her family will tell you that he saved her life that night. And she improbably went on to graduate from Westlake and college and marry and raise a kid and become a high school counselor and help hundreds of troubled kids just like her. And then 3 years ago, Jinx was diagnosed with cancer, and he said, the biggest thing in all this for me is how my grandkids remember me. And a lot of people have a bucket list, things they want to do at the end of their life. Jinx was very simple. He wanted to go as many games and activities as he could of his grandkids, Dylan and Kelly and Jenna and Jack and Kyle. And the Lord gave him 3 years that he went to hundreds of their activities, and it was such a blessing. And one thing that Jinx Hoover didn't have to do on his bucket list was run around and get right with the Lord. Amen? Now, Jinx would want y'all to know that y'all are in a proud Southern Baptist church. And when there's an amen called, it's not an optional thing, and it's going to be loud. And so we're going to try that again. One thing that Jinx Hoover didn't have to do was run around and get right with his Lord. Amen? It's better. Jinx only twice said anything to me about, what would happen after this. And he used an incredible phrase. He said, if I go, not when I die, not when I'm dead, but optimistically, if I go. Not that I'm dying or anything, but I'm just going to go. If I go. And his admonition twice was, if I go, you boys get your mother a car that she can see out of. Jinx had a very graceful ending. One of my friends said he nailed the dismount. His timing was so impeccable in this incredible string of football games that we find ourselves in this weekend. And I don't have time to go into it right now, but that's all I'll be talking about in Fellowship Hall. And he went peacefully and at home, and it was just such a blessing, and we were all there with him. So what now for Jinx Hoover? There's an incredible television show called I Survived, Beyond and Back, where people relate their near-death stories of when they've been clinically dead and what they experienced. And it's incredibly powerful. And two things that they say, so many of the people that always amaze me, is they say they felt perfected, which I think is just such an incredible word. And then they said they didn't want to come back. It was so wonderful. even to their wives and families. They didn't want to come back, and it's hard to even imagine that. And this Bible promises us heaven, but it doesn't spell it out, other than streets of gold. So everybody's free to conjure up their own vision of heaven. And when I think of Jinx in heaven, I think of him with his family, and they're all young and strong and disease-free. And I think of him and his dad teeing off at St. Andrews every morning, perfected. So what now for us? Well, I think we do what Jinx would want us to do. We're going to haul this beautiful red flower W up to the Westlake tailgate party tonight, and then we're going to go to the Westlake football game. And then tomorrow we're going to go to Jack's first ever tackle football game at the same stadium. And on Sunday, Matt and I are going to haul whatever's left of these green and gold flowers up to Waco, to the tailgate parties, and go to the Baylor game. I was in HEB yesterday. I had a few minutes, and I was able to run in and actually get some supplies for the tailgate party tonight, and I was grabbing everything I could that's bad for you. And I was second-guessing the play calling, even though the game wasn't for another day. And I thought, man, this is the best I've felt in a couple of weeks. I said, you know what? This is going to be all right. We're going to get over this thing. We're going to get through it just the way that Jinx wants us to. We were all honored to know Jinx Hoover and to walk this rock with him. He made us all better, and I'm honored to be his son and share his initials. How do you sum all this up? One of my friends, Jay Simcox, wrote simply and beautifully, I will tell my daughters tonight about a man named Jinx Hoover who died yesterday, a very rich man in the wealth that no money can buy. And I've always thought of Jinx in the lyrics to the Alan Jackson song, Small Town Southern Man, and the chorus goes like this. And he bowed his head for Jesus, and he stood for Uncle Sam, and he only loved one woman, was always proud of what he had. Said his greatest contribution is the ones you leave behind, raised on the ways and gentle kindness of a small town Southern man. Jinx Hoover made his time count. Amen? Amen. Jinx Hoover left a mark. Amen? Amen. Godspeed and rest easy, Dad.